Hey, what's going on out there? I'd like to welcome you guys back to the channel. And in this video, I wanted to go over this Dilla 4 to the floor style. He has a lot of different styles in his production, but I was listening to some of his instrumentals last week, and it was this one beat that really caught me. And then I noticed that he does have a lot of beats where he has this 4 to the floor style. And I don't see too many people covering this, so I wanted to, take this opportunity to kind of do a tutorial. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull in impact. Now, naturally, what Jay Dilla would probably do is get his drums from a record, and then kind of chop them up and play them back. What I'm going to do is I know a lot of people they get their drums from Splice or Loop Cloud or whatever the case may be. So I wanted to show you how you can use your stock drum sounds and kind of recreate that gritty sound that Jay Dilla has to his drums. But first, we're going to go ahead and put the 4 to the floor style down. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'm going to play this metronome. I have my tempo at 95, and let's listen to the metronome first. Now, every time that metronome hits, that's where we're going to place the kick. That's essentially what 4 to the floor is. It just hits always on the 1. So let me go ahead and record this in. So what I want to do is everything's on grid, but we want to create some type of groove with this drum track. So I'm going to push this snare and clap off the grid a little bit. And then I'm going to go back to this clap and I'm going to push that even further off the grid. Now let's listen to that. I'm going to use this hat and then, I'm going to use these two hats to kind of fill in the groove. I'm going to bring this down just a little bit. Now that sounds really robotic. So what I'm going to do is highlight these, go up to my action menu and humanize this. I think we can push this off just a little more. And actually with that, I'm going to go to, let's see, my macros. I'm going to go up to the music editing, and then I'm going to randomize the velocity of these hats here. All right, now that I have that hat, I'm going to add another hat to it. All right, now we're going to go ahead and highlight these and push these off as well. And I want to use a ride, and then we should be done with the drums here. We'll use a crash. Now, when I bounce this crash down later, I'm probably going to shorten it. But now that we have this groove, I'm going to go ahead and explode these pitches to tracks, highlight all of them, and then transform these to audio. Now I'm going to rename these. I'm going to sum this kick to mono to give it more power. This is the hi-hat. This is the hi-hat 2. This is the snare. This is the clap. And I'm also going to collapse this snare to mono as well. The clap is going to take up the stereo field, and then we'll go to the crash here and name that crash. Now, what I can do is I'm going to go ahead and level these, and I'm going to be right back. Okay, so I have my drums leveled, and as I stated before, I'm going to do something with this crash. I don't want it to be too drawn out. So I'm going to, let's say when this clap hits here, the ride should, or the crash should be fully played. Versus if I left it like this, which is cool, but I'd rather have it, cut short. And also, I have this clap along. I'm going to go ahead and rearrange these to the way that I usually have it. So I have this snare here that's hitting at a certain level, and I have this clap. Now, I don't want the clap to be as loud as the snare because that'll double the volume of it. If I have the snare hitting at, let's say, like -12, and then I have the clap hitting at -12, that's going to boost the overall volume of those two together. So I want to have the clap right beneath the snare. You're still able to hear it, and it's going to sound much more cleaner. Now that I have all of this, what I'm going to do is process this. Let's name these drums. Now I'm going to try to process this like J Dilla was using certain hardware. So I have Decimort here, and essentially it's a bit crusher. So I have access to the sample rate. I can downsample. Let me turn this dithering off. I can set the resolution, the bit size. So we'll do 16-bit. I believe J Dilla used the MPC 2000. It could have been the 2500. I'm not sure. But most of these are 16-bit. I'm going to turn on this DC shift. And yeah, so I could use this preamp. I'm not going to use it. And I'm also going to use this low pass filter. Now, most samplers, I think I had the ASR 10, and I believe it was like an 18 kilohertz, maybe even a 16 kilohertz cutoff. I could be mistaken, but for this, I'm going to use an 18 kilohertz cutoff and just use a 20% resonance filter. So let's see how that sounds. Now, what this jitter does is it introduces some artifacts. So I'm actually going to add a little bit of jitter to this. Okay, so now that I have that, normally J Dilla would be sampling from vinyl, which has its own sound. It's going to have a level of distortion and some level of wobble to it as well. So I'm going to pull up RC20, and I'm going to put this before it because if we're sampling from a record into our device, then I want to have that same chain here. So what I'm going to do is go to this drum break preset I have and kind of tweak it. And as you can see with this, it has a tone boost, so it's like a tilt shift, so it's going to give me a little more high end versus the low end. If you know anything about vinyl, the more bass you have, it'll make the needle jump. So it's probably going to have more of the upper frequencies more prominent. So now that we have that, let's listen to it. Now, one thing I do want to take into consideration is the level matching. So if I'm hitting without this RC20, because distortion, normally it would keep you at the same level, but some distortions kind of boost the signal. And we can see that here. So I'm going to turn this RC20 off, and I'm going to bring up this level meter. And then we can look at it with the kick alone. So we're hitting around negative 7.3. Now, when I turn this RC20 on, look to what it jumps to. So what I want to do is level match that. And I can do that by, I'm going to pin this, bring up RC20, and then I can just pull the gain down inside of this module here. And that'll be good for the sake of this video. So I'm going to close these two out. And now what I'm going to do is bring in the arpeggiator. So in the beat I was listening to, it was 42 new. And he had this drum style, and he used an arpeggiator, and it was kind of another melody that was complemented with the bass. And then he has a B section. So we're going to do that here. So what I'm going to do is pull up a Arturia. We're going to go to Analog Lab. So now that we have that, we have access to the sequence here. And usually, well, we can see it's arpeggiators. Now we can go to styles, and let's see, arpeggiated. Now we can go back to the show results, and we have all of our arpeggiators here. And we're going to go ahead and find a good one to go with this drum track. Okay, so I found this ARP. It might be another ARP. See, that's the problem with having, a lot of options here. You can go through this all day to try to find the perfect ARP. But I'm going to settle on this Arium ARP and go ahead and record this in. Now I'm going to go ahead and bounce this down. So I want to go ahead and level this and then put a little processing on this as well. I'm going to add some saturation to this. And we could do tape. Let's see what sounds the best. Okay, now that I have that, I'm going to go ahead and filter out some of this low end. Now, as stated before in the instrumental I was listening to, he had another counter melody that he played in, and the bass was kind of like the foundation to that counter melody. And then on the B section, he switches things up. So I'm going to pull in Analog Lab again. And from here, I'm going to get a key stab. Let's find a good one. Now, I like that melody. I'm not too big on the sound, so I'm going to record that in and then find a sound to replace it. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to use this. As you can see, I've hearted this, so I've used this in a lot of my tracks. But I'm going to use this. I'm going to go ahead and humanize this as well. And as stated before, what I'm going to do is pull up another. Actually, I'm going to go to the Mini V. From what I understand, that's what Dilla was using is the Moog. This is a great emulation of that. I'm just going to go ahead and drop down the MIDI notes. And now we have our bass. So we just have to select the bass line here. So I'm going to go ahead and, let's see, resize this to about 100%. And let's go to types. Let's go to bass and find a good bass. Now I'm going to drop this down an octave for the bass. Select all of these, shift down. And I'm going to elongate these notes. They're a little too stabby. So let's go ahead and pull these out. And also I'm going to push this off the grid because these are hitting the same exact way that the keys are. So let me do that. Okay, now that we have that, I'm going to work on this B section and see if I can't do something with this ARP here. Maybe if I put movement on it, it'll give it a different feel. So I add movement to the ARP for the B section, and I'm also going to add effectrix, see if I can't spice it up even more. Okay, so I switched these keys back to the original state. I think when I did the counter melody or the alternate melody, it kind of clashed with the effects I put on the ARP. So it sounds better this way. So what I'm going to do is move this over, duplicate this. So we kind of have like 2 4-bar sections. All right. So we're going to add a little variation. Usually when I listen to J Dilla's beats, before the next loop comes in, there's some type of drop. So I'm going to take this kick out and see how that sounds. All right. So before that, I'm going to take this clap and snare out. And that's enough right there for the variation. Okay, so on this last part here, on some of J Dilla's beats, he likes to put like a string, a droning string into the mix. So I'm going to try to do that. Let's go ahead and pull up this Air Music Tech, expand, find a string that will fit in this beat. So, let's see, strings. Let's go to Hall Strings. All right, so we want it here. Let's bring this down a little bit. And I want it at this tail end. there you have it. This is the style of beat that I think I like the most out of Jay Dilla. That four to the floor. Sometimes he uses ARP, sometimes he uses a guitar sample, maybe even a vocal sample. But yeah, if you're into this style, hopefully this tutorial will help you create that style for your own production. And I'm going to go ahead and play the beat. I'd like to thank you for watching, and until next time, peace.